Hello, good evening. I'm Ryan Lester, and this is episode 19 of the Wolves Report, where tonight we're going to be talking about Brentford winning without key players, Ruben Neves, Moutinho, Adama's departure, the transfer window, taking as many questions as we can, and the team for Norwich. No podcast will be complete without its team. We've got our two regular pundits in the form of Mr. Happy himself in the bottom right-hand corner, our own version of Eddie Howe. We've got Knocker, who's intermediate. And of course, again, we are delighted to have spent February's budget on radio royalty in the form of BBC WM's Daz Hale. So good evening, gentlemen.
Hello. What did you say Knocker was into?
You don't want to know, Daz.
Intermediate happiness. That's a different show.
That's a different show entirely. Yeah.
So, first of all, thanks for those who are watching live. The show is really helped by your input in terms of your comments and your contributions, your comments via YouTube or Facebook. We get on as many as we can with the comments and questions. It helps with the flow of the show. So any of those, that'd be fantastic. And of course, those who tweeted me earlier on with any questions, we'll get as many of those on as we can as well. Shows in the middle to break the international breakup or winter break, whatever it is. Let's go back to Brentford to start with the show with some positivity, because I've got a feeling it's not all going to be positive tonight. So let's go back to when it was Brentford 1, Wolves 2, should have been 3 with Adama's final goal for Wolves. It was a game that Wolves didn't have Raul Jimenez, didn't have Romain Saiss again. It was a tough game on paper. It was a game where Wolves matched up Brentford in a 3-5-2, and it was two teams cancelling out each other a lot for the game, but the two bits of quality for Wolves shone through in the end. So, Daz, what was your take on the Wolves' fantastic win at Brentford?
It told me we've got a coach who learns, because they completely bossed us at Molineux. And I know that they had at that point, it was probably all still cup tie football, so just got promoted, but they absolutely bullied us that day. And we learned from it. And wasn't it sweet? And wasn't it the irony of having Thomas Frank complaining about time wasting? Because that's something else that we've become. I think we've perhaps we've been too nice in the past. I know we've talked about this before. Whereas now we do the dark arts. If you can't beat them, join them. That's what you do in the Premier League. You roll around pretending you're injured to break up the play when the team's got a bit of rhythm going. You time waste every available opportunity when you win in the match. So we're doing that as well. So ultimately, I think it was a poor game up until drone, whoever put that drone up there. And I think that gave them an opportunity during the... Are you claiming responsibility for that? And you got me there doing that. And I think after that, we were better, weren't we? And whatever we need to be said then. And it ain't a classic performance, but we've won away from home in the Premier League. And I think every time you do that, you have to just go, yeah, good on you, especially as you mentioned, Ryan, without so many. I mean, you mentioned Saiss and Jimenez, and because there's another half a dozen potential first-team players who we haven't had for quite some time now, who you have to add into the mix as well, because when teams get the games called off because they've got a couple of people with runny noses, they always add all them in, don't they? So...
Yeah, I mean, I'm absolutely delighted with the result. And I was lucky enough to be at the game. I mean, I know you managed to watch Knocker and Tyler. I mean, start with you, Tyler. What was your take? I know, as me and Daz have said, it wasn't the prettiest game of football, but the two best players on the pitch won the game for Wolves with their individual moments of brilliance with their finishes.
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the game wasn't pretty, but those goals were beautiful, weren't they? I mean, the Moutinho goal, you could just watch it over and over again. Could you? The finish is ridiculous. And if that's one of, the big two or the big three teams, they're talking about it all week, aren't they? It was just a lovely goal. And the Neves one, the patience in the build-up, there was no panic out Norwich to Moutinho. We then shifted it one more. Two moments of quality won the game, didn't it? We didn't really do much else apart from Adama's breakaway that was obviously disallowed. But like we talked about the Southampton game, it wasn't all singing, all dancing, sexy football that we've sometimes seen in De Bruyne. Like Daz said, it was a different way of winning a football game again. It was industrious, it was hard-working. Dendoncker, I thought, was very good. He was involved in both the goals. And like Daz said, if you go away from home, any team in the Premier League, and you come back with 3 points, you're delighted.
Absolutely. I mean, Knocker, would you give Bruno credit? I mean, some would say it was negative, but do you think he was brave to match them up and then go, you know what, if we go toe-to-toe with our quality across the three, we're going to outclass you in the areas? Yes, it was very much nullified on both sides, but it was brave of the manager, wasn't it, to almost take a step back to accept how good they were at Molineux, to go toe-to-toe in terms of formation?
I think Daz is right. We got absolutely bullied at Molineux. They had a game plan. They beat us up. They were nasty. They were horrible on the pitch. They were throwing themselves to the floor. We just didn't cope with it. But I think the highlight for me, it's not the goals. It's Jose Sarr picking the ball up and absolutely steamrolling Ivan Toney for no reason whatsoever. It was the most unnecessary attack I've ever seen. But it was a sign that we're not going to be bullied anymore. We're not going to be picked on. If you want to stand with us, we'll stand toe to toe and we'll come back at you. And I thought it was the right formation to play because of the first game, and I thought we managed it relatively well. It was a strange game. I mean, you had the long injury for the head injury, and then the drone comes on, and then in the second half you got 7 minutes of injury time. It was a bizarre game, but that's not an easy place to go, regardless of what form they're in. And it's a big 3 points for us.
Yeah, and I think it shows, doesn't it, that is this our third, fourth season now, that how different it's been since we've come back. Whereas before, in previous years, when we've been in the Premier League, we have had to play absolutely out of our skin, 10 out of 10, to have any chance of winning a match. Yeah. Now we can win ugly, and there's no way in a million years we'd have won ugly in previous times. So again, I know we're going to talk in a little bit about where we are right now, but also there's a bit of context that it shows the progress we have made over the last few years.
I think you make a good point there, and it's not just the fact we can win ugly. Our version of ugly is a lot more beautiful than it's ever been in the past, because the two goals we scored, and some of the way that we kept the ball and dominated possession and knocked it around, and just like Chris said, for the goals, the patience on the ball. Whereas you look at Brentford, they had one chance when we fell asleep and they scored from it, but other than that, we absolutely nullified them, and that's what was happening to us the first time we got promoted.
Yeah, I couldn't be happy with the result. I thought I wasn't. When Wolves have had players missing in this sort of last few years, key players, it's always looked tough. I wasn't confident against Southampton, but again, we did a job and I was really happy. I'd still having nightmares about the Brentford game. So going there to a new stadium with a team we've got a little bit of needle with and their tactics, I thought it was a brilliant result. To come away from there, I mean, they've ran Liverpool close. They beat Villa previously. They were a goal down. They ran Man City too. I think Man City only won there 1-0. We're talking about a team a team that does the dark arts brilliantly well, and you have to give them credit for that. But as Daz said at the very start, the manager's learning. He's evolving with his substitutions, with the way the team's playing. The whole team is more aggressive and the whole team is more savvy, and we have to give Bruno credit for that. So, yeah, absolutely delighted. Keeping it on the Brentford subject for a little while, we talked about them already, but Ruben Neves, I mean, even in the ugliest of ugly games where it wasn't the prettiest, this guy for me was head and shoulders in that midfield. I just thought he was absolutely fantastic. Tracking, tackling, distribution, and the way he's took his goal and whipped it round to the near post. I mean, as well as Moutinho as well, we've got to be satisfying this guy, haven't we, in terms of our ambition as well, which we'll sort of ease into a little bit later. But I just want to glow on his performance a little bit, really. In like this season, for me, he's matured again. He's kicked on again in terms of, he looks like he's got everything now. Wolves play 5-10 yards higher up the pitch. He looks like the Ruben Neves in the Championship again, and he's got everything, Daz. I mean, how good is Ruben Neves, and how long can we keep him for?
He's gone to another level, hasn't he? And he's not the only one. There's other players. I mean, Cody is another one as well, who's now actually does look like an England centre-back, whereas before we thought, how the hell's he playing for England? But Neves, yeah, he's absolutely now. He's bossing games again. And I've got to take my hat off to Moutinho as well, because 18 months ago, I was actually saying on the radio, well, his legs are gone now. That's it now.
Yeah.
And Neves was really fat. And I just still wonder, the season that lasted, however, a year or whatever it was, I think they had 9 days pre-season, they come back. I think a lot of them were just running on empty, both physically and mentally. And when you consider as well that last Christmas time, that Neves was actually on a coach watching the birth of his baby.
Yeah.
Playing behind closed doors.
That's some commitment, that is. Yeah.
The other side of the other side of the sea. No wonder and I think probably what happened to Raul, if obviously I know we've all watched the documentary and you saw the impact that it had even on Nuno. it affected so many people. So, but to see him now coming on, and again, I'm gonna go back to Bruno Lage and say he's getting the best out of him. He's playing him now in an area where he really can affect matches. So again, terrific, and long may we keep him. Although I know you're going to come on to that in due course.
But I mean,
name me a better all-round centre midfielder in the Premier League.
there is. I mean, I would probably say Declan Rice is probably, because the one thing Declan Rice can do, he can travel with the ball as well. He can travel with the ball. So
you were at the West Ham game.
I was, and when I saw Souček and Declan Rice v Moutinho and Neves, I thought we're in big trouble here. I thought we're going to get legged. But you know what, right? I hold my hands up there. That's a great example, Chris. And we had more quality than them. But in terms of an individual, I mean, I do think Declan Rice is a very, very good footballer. Yeah. Slightly different player. Travels with the ball a little bit better.
It's tongue in cheek because people laugh at you because obviously there's much better players at Man City, Liverpool, etc. But it's to get a reaction from the question. But for a central midfielder that can pretty much do everything that you'd want from a central midfielder, I don't think there's many more complete all-rounder ones than him.
I think he gets in any top four team. Or certainly in every top four match day squad and be a regular player, and that's how good he is for my money.
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing he can't do.
We've talked about this for the rest of the squad, well, particularly the defence, but the way Moutinho and Neves, who couldn't play together, are now playing in a team that are more positive, the difference in these guys being able to look for forward passes as opposed to playing it back or playing it to the wing back, the difference in them now, when you're keeping a footballer happy and allowing him to express himself, you're seeing a totally different player, and we're seeing that across the team. So moving swiftly on to the same thing, talking about Joe Moutinho. Now, as Daz mentioned it at the start of the show, Knocker, that we thought this might be his last season now, and we didn't think he'd go any further. But this guy now, he looks as good as when he signed. So I'm a little bit worried we're coming to the end of January and he's not signed a new contract, Knocker. What have we got to do to keep him?
I think he'll walk at the end of the season, if I'm being totally honest. I think he'll look for a return back to Portugal, perhaps. Look, he's an outstanding player. He's been absolutely fantastic for us. He is, for me, getting better. I think he made Neves better the first couple of seasons, and now I think Neves is making him better. I think they're really bouncing off each other well. They've got an unbelievable relationship. Can we keep him? I've just got a little sneaky he's going to go back at the end of the season, if I'm being honest. I hope he doesn't, because I think he absolutely deserves a new contract, but I think he might weigh it up himself and think he wants to finish back home.
I mean, it's not even romantic or sentimental now. It'd be nice to keep Joe around. We want to keep him around because he's one of our best players again.
Well, look at the quality of the finish. Look at that outside of the boot.
I mean, it's ridiculous. Honestly,
it's beautiful arrogance, isn't it?
I was stood in the away end, and there was a brief pause with what the has that just happened there? Like he just nonchalantly outside of his foot, and there was just everyone was like, keeper didn't even move. I think he just dropped to one knee, and we're like, wow, what a goal! So
2 in 3 games. I reckon he's going for the golden boot.
He might be walked off.
It's not hard, is it? I think we're in the running for that, lads.
I think though, when you look at Moutinho, I think the biggest compliment you can give him is the amount of effort he puts in at Wolves, because this is a guy who's won a lot of things. You know, he's had a superb career. What is he, the second highest caps winner for Portugal? Yeah. And he comes to Molineux and he's 100% every time he plays. He looks after himself. His performances on the pitch are passionate, and he wants to win. He's a born winner. He's still hungry at his age. He's still hungry. So maybe he does sign a new deal. I mean, maybe we get another year out of him. But
there was something
a little while ago about him. He used to strop when he used to lose the games in training. Now, I absolutely love that. I mean, I'm a terrible loser, and it's just about how you're managing losing stuff. My daughter's a terrible loser, and I'm proud of it because it just makes you want to win more. And I know there's a certain edge to that, but I want to win. And the fact we've got a guy, like you said, he's at the twilight of his career that's done everything, that wants to win every week, and he's still passionate, and he's like giving it back to Thomas Frank at the end of that game. What a footballer. But the big question is sort of that leads on to, if he doesn't stay, I mean, that's a massive hole in our midfield, and that's going to take serious money to replace.
Well, yeah, and then we're all a bit worried about Neves as well, potentially. You know, there's going to be suitors for Neves, like Dal said. he could get in any of the top 4 sides in the league. I agree with Daz with that opinion. So then suddenly, if Moutinho doesn't sign a new contract, and in the summer there's going to be vulture circling over Neves, it leads on to the wider conversation I'm sure we're going to come on to about, transfers in the long term. But it's worrying, isn't it, really, to think that one of those two, if not both of them, aren't going to be there.
But isn't that the pattern, though? Isn't that how we operate now? You lose one big player every couple of windows. I'm just saying that if they sell Neves, what they're going to get from it? If you sold Neves in the next window in the summer, what price tag you putting on him? 60? Probably 60
it has. I mean, if you have to look around now. I mean, Chris would have probably scored past Wolves at St James's now. £25 million for a guy that's a good few years older, that's nowhere near the quality. Even though they're different players on the pitch, completely different jobs. We're talking a million miles apart in terms of quality.
Yeah. This £100 million, Jack Grealish.
Yeah, well,
you wouldn't swap him for Neves, would you?
Not at the moment, I wouldn't. No, I mean, Jack Grealish is a tremendous footballer, and he was brilliant at Villa last season. Not found his feet at Man City yet, but would you at this moment in time? Would you go Jack for Neves? You wouldn't, would you? You absolutely wouldn't. I mean, if they threw in Gundogan, I might. Not really, but we'll see.
But we know how Fosun operate, though, don't we? We know the thought process behind it. If they were to lose Neves for, say, if someone comes in 65, 70 million, Neves isn't the sort of player to make a fuss about going. But if they look at that and think that's a rebuild, but
it is hard to turn that money down, whoever you are. If someone,
of course it is, yeah.
And that's the reality.
You're going to take it. You are going to take it, and he's going to go. That's the reality of a club of our size, isn't it?
And as frustrated as we all are, and we'll come on to that, the business model at the moment, as it stands today, has worked, hasn't it? And it's like, where are we going to be? But look, massive, all the debates we had when they sacked Nuno, which is what they did. Well, we've pushed on. We haven't really added to the squad. He's made these players better, and we're never going to come on to it. And I'm not defending what's going on, but they will look at it and go, "Well, look where we are. We're 4 points off the top 4 with a game in hand." So it's difficult to. Maybe they do know what they're doing, but I'm worried as well.
And I'm sorry. I know we're going to talk about Adama with him going, but I don't think any Wolves fan could stand in the way of Ruben Neves going to play in the top 4, play in the Champions League. I certainly wouldn't. You talked about what Moutinho's given for the club. Neves has done the same handsome, hasn't he? So for me, he's the perfect footballer, and I think he should be playing his trade at the real top level for me.
Yeah, there's no doubt that those pair has been the finest midfield partnership that I've ever seen at Wolves, and never ever did I thought I'd be so. I never thought I'd be so lucky to witness such tremendous footballers. I've always looked on at other teams, and now it's us. Other teams must be looking at us, some of our young players, and thinking that they're going about their business really well. So, yeah, what was you going to say, Tyler?
I was going to say, did you not see Tony Dinning and Keith Andrews?
Exactly. If only Chris Marsden hadn't broke his leg, him and Darren Ferguson.
I'm not sure his leg was the problem, Daz.
I know. I know.
No comment for the record. Okay. Just rounding up on Brentford. Great day, great result. Did what we had to do, and just finishing on Thomas Frank. I spoke to my dad in the week leading up to the game, and I think we said on the group chat as well. I'd love the game to be tight at the end, and for us to do a bit of gamesmanship, just to turn it back. And I got my wish, and he couldn't take it. And I don't know if any of you guys saw the TikTok that Wolves did with him on there. I mean,
brilliant.
It's one of the best TikToks. I mean, I don't know who's in charge of that at Wolves, but it was outrageously brilliant. And that's that kind of stuff, I mean, if the other way around, we'd be mad. But that was brilliant. And the fact he's gone on, and the way they've dubbed in as well, don't make excuses.
Can I say one rude word? Can I say one mildly rude word, which I wouldn't dare say on the radio?
I thought you weren't going to talk about them.
No. I thought that was class A shithousery by Wolves.
It absolutely was.
Apologies for the language.
We're past 9 o'clock. We're on the watershed. Right. They also were fine. So, yeah, absolutely fantastic. Now, the next segment, I feel, may take a long time. I think it's going to get a little bit heated. So we need to talk about the departure of Adama Traore, who, for me, not the most talented, but without a doubt, the most entertaining exciting, bums off seat footballer I've ever had the pleasure of watching at Wolverhampton Wanderers. And if we're talking about on the dark side of things, we've let him go for nothing with absolutely no guarantees. Now, I think we all know that isn't going to be the case. But I think legally binding in terms of if you commit to a player in this financial year, that's money out of the budget technically this year, even though you're buying in next year. So they couldn't do that. So I think there's a gentleman's agreement. I'll be really, really surprised if it didn't happen. And it leaves a gaping hole. We have given away probably the best impact sub in world football. That might be an exaggeration, but look at his last few weeks. I know he split the pack. I love the guy. I'm gutted. I really wish we could have kept him. However, we can't afford to be throwing away 25, 30 million pounds. I think Wolves have done the business. He's agreed his deal, and that'll be done. Knocker, talk some sense to me.
I think he's left a massive hole, an absolutely massive hole in that squad. I mean, the stats, people go by his stats. If you go by his stats, he's awful. But if you look at the player, if you look at what he actually does on the pitch and the impact he makes, we don't come back at Villa Park without him. We don't beat Man United without him. There's so many moments of impact that he's had. And I get the point. Look, I think when Spurs were coming in for him, I think we had a little bit of an outside chance of keeping him, just basically on the fact that they wanted to play him at right wing back was the rumour. They're not that big a club, if we're being honest, at this moment in time.
Nice
as soon
stadium.
as Barcelona came, well, yeah, nice stadium, but who cares? I think as soon as Barcelona came in, it was curtains then, wasn't it? Because it was an opportunity to go back. Yes, there's a gentleman's agreement. It'd be interesting to see what happens if Adama breaks his leg or does his cruciate, though, how that operates, but fingers crossed that doesn't happen. But I think letting him go is one thing. Yeah, if he wants to go, he wants to go. Are we going to replace him? No chance. So we're very, very reliant on Neto getting up to speed very quickly, Pedent staying fit, Hwang learning how to play football, and just, I don't know. I've got a real concern about that area. I think suddenly we look a little bit weak in those positions now. And I don't know. I think we've lost a massive, massive player off the bench.
Well, the thing is, for me, we've got to look at that. Recent weeks, I mean, me and Tyler were at Old Trafford. Adama comes on with Fabio, changes the game. The impact against Southampton, when he's actually managed to hold his run, if it got on the end of a through ball, pinged it. He's done exactly the same last week at Brentford. I mean, he's marginally close. He's finally found how to run on the shoulder of the defender and go clean through, and we've sold him. And that's so painful. I mean, I just honestly, I'm gutted he's gone. But Daz, we're all going to be wishing him well, whether we like him or not, because if he's successful, that transfer will definitely happen. So
we've got Chiquino now. Did you watch him? Chiquino? Did you watch him for the hour for the under-23s the other night?
I thought he was enthusiastic, Daz. I think that was.
I thought it was an ABBA song. He was, yeah. Well, look, I mean, I agree with everything you've said, and I think that when you name the team, when you're at Wolves, the opposition players and supporters are always much happier when he's not in it.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that. As regards the contract offer that's down on the table, and reportedly the money he wants for being the impact sub is would make him the top earner, and I suppose that in itself. But the contract's still on the table now. Someone on the football phone in made a really interesting point on Friday, I think it was, which I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Ryan, when you were on the show, and I'd not thought of this because you were on about the tax year and the whole April thing. I wonder whether them paying, because obviously they're in financial trouble, although they keep finding all this money down the back of the sofa. I'm wondering, and this was my point. This was put on. Somebody messaged it in, whether them paying that 29 to us depends on Villa paying the 33 for Coutinho, because they're both loan deals until the summer with an option. So if Villa sign Coutinho. There you go. Well, they might as well just pass it to us. They've sent it to Barcelona. Because I'm wondering whether it depends on that. Now, if he has a great 3-4 months there and they can't sign him or don't want to sign him or whatever, I think other clubs will. The worst case scenario is it comes back to us. If we're in Europe, then who's to say he'll say, well, where's that go on? Then I might as well stay in that. You just don't know, especially if he's gone back and done the Barcelona thing, which has been his dream. If they don't sign him at the end of it, then he's still ticked that box, hasn't he? So I don't know. So it's still, but ultimately we ain't took it for 15 million, have we? which I think is the thing that I'm seeing him playing against us and ripping us apart in a fortnight's time.
That's the one positive I'm trying to pull from it, because, like I said, I can't. And people know enough. I've said on air, I love Adama, and I wish him nothing but the best. I don't begrudge him his move. Good luck to him. But the one bit of comfort is, if we'd have been going to Spurs in a couple of weeks and watching him fly, and then their fans taunting us and him doing something, that would just been really hard to swallow. It would have been really tough. So the way Spurs disrespected Wolves and him by offering £15 million probably painted a picture of where Spurs are at more than really where Adama's at. And in the end, it's cost them, because if they'd have paid the 25 million up front before the Barcelona links were put down, he'd be a Spurs player now. But he's not, and I'm taking some comfort in that. But Tyler, here we go. Tell me about Adama Traore departing Wolverhampton Wanderers.
I just think it stinks, to be honest. Not the fact he's going, not the fact he's going back to his boyhood club, but I've said to you and Knocker, name me another football club that, when challenging for a European place, let one of their star players go on loan without an obligation to buy, without replacing him. Because I think Knocker's right. I don't think we will replace him. Or if we have, we've got some kid from somewhere for £3 million that played for the under-23s last night. I genuinely just don't understand the deal. If Barcelona came up with 25, 30 million quid, there's your fee. I get it. He's not signed a new contract. I understand it. But to have another club benefit from him while he's still technically a Wolves player, while we're pushing potentially for a European place, I just don't understand it. I genuinely don't. And people like wishing him good luck and all that. For me, it's a load of cobblers, to be honest. I think he should be staying at the football club until the summer, or he should be going on a permanent basis somewhere else. I don't see how this benefits Wolves in the slightest. Yeah, we might get 25 million, great. So what does getting into Europe get you financial wise? I think it stinks. That's my opinion. But
yeah, I mean, I've put this argument out on Twitter. How, if Wolves had kept hold of him, how much and qualified for Europe, what would have been the financial difference between selling him in the summer and selling him now would have been? I don't think would have been that difference. But again, I think Adama's made it clear that he wants to be the highest earner. Wolves have made it clear we're not going to pay you that. And we've had the biggest football club in the world, which are his hometown club, come back in for him. What are we supposed to do? But I agree with you, Tom.
You've just said there, sorry, Wolves have made it clear. Well, actually, I think that's half the problem here now. There's more to this deal than we know about, and maybe it's for good reason that we don't know about it. But it's the communication thing again, isn't it? The transparent. No, who's to say come Tuesday or Wednesday that Jeff won't do another one of his videos that he did a year ago? But there needs to be a regular dialogue. Otherwise, it builds frustration. It builds conspiracy theories. It builds and I get it that even if you come out and speak, sometimes people are still not going to buy what you've said. But I think they owe supporters, and all our clubs owe their supporters a regular, even like the old pantomime villain Jez Moxie would always come out and talk. It might have been a load of rubbish. You might not have liked what he said, but at least he was communicating. And that's part of the problem. And that's what they need to address, because they need to explain their thinking here and where they're going and where we're going.
And that's my point, Dad. I just don't see how this deal benefits Wolverhampton Wanderers at the moment. I can't think of any positive from it. I genuinely can't.
Well, I mean, I know I've been expecting this from you, Tyler, and you're right, and that I agree with pretty much everything you said. It's hard to disagree. I mean, still with us says he could be worth more than 30 million in the summer. Let's not forget Adama Traore, and as he said before as well, he's kicked on in the last few weeks. I mean, he might be playing harder to get that move. I don't know, but everyone says he's a top professional. He's a good trainer. He's not kicked off. He just isn't signed his deal. He's not down tools at all. He's not down tools at all. Excuse me.
I think maybe the difference here is that we are looking at it as football supporters, whereas we're owned by an investment company. An investment company will always create a risk ratio when they're dealing with something like this. And if they think they're going to lose money on something like this, on one of their assets, doesn't matter. They're going to sell him because they're not going to risk losing that kind of money. If they've got an agreement with Barca, they could pick up 25 million quid. But
they paid 18.
And they paid 18. But then they look at it and think, well, if we get to Europe. But what's the chances of us getting to Europe the way they're going to balance it up? They're going to take the money every time. That's just the way investment companies work, aren't they? They're going to work that way.
I think there's also the profile element. And I know last time I was on, I think we were talking about all of the subsidiaries, the record labels and the esports and everything. Again, the more successful Wolves are, the more kudos the brand has got. So they and for growing the fan base in Asia and wherever else they want to do it, then they want us to be in Europe. But again, it's weighing it all up. But I wouldn't say that they would disregard Europe for a fast buck. And again, they have had a contract offer on the table for the Mancins for about a year now. Now, I don't know what that offer is, but he hasn't. Every time we were asked about, we kept being told, "Oh, it's edging closer." So we never went, "You're taking the mick. I'm not signing that." So it's been an ongoing thing. But again, we don't know, and that's where a lot of the frustration comes from. Explain, which is a great point, really, about how do Wolves benefit from this. Well, hopefully, after tomorrow night, they'll come out and say, "This is how we benefit from it," and explain it to people and explain where we're going.
Well, I know and Chris put it really bluntly, which was really good because that's how most fans will be seeing it. What are we benefiting from this? What if he gets injured and we get absolutely nothing? My personal view is I genuinely believe there is a strong gentleman's agreement that will happen in June. Wolves will get the money, Adama will go regardless. I just can't see, or maybe a Trincao swap, I don't know. But there is no way this is happening just for a bit of fun. Let's do Barcelona a favour and lose the best impact sub in world football. It's not happening. There must be a deal in place. Because
how would you feel if they did do a Trincao swap? Because right now, where we are today, I wouldn't be happy with that. It might be at the end of the season if he has a good second half of the season.
Can I entice you to drop a little bit of money in with Trincao as well, or is it a straight swap?
Not for me. Not at the moment. I'd want
£10 million and Trincao. What are you saying?
Not at the moment. I mean,
I'd rather just
not for me. He may
well
develop. Neto did, but not right now. Not for me.
I like him. I think there's a lot there, and I think obviously there's been articles this week that Bruno likes him, doesn't he? He sees that he drops in and he helps out the midfield, and he's more of a. It's a totally different player, and I think as we talked about last week, Adama hasn't started many games for us, and I think he likes the Podence, the Trincao type footballer. They get on it, they turn, they're intricate, they find the pockets, so that's fine. But I think isn't he on like 140 grand a week or something stupid at Barcelona? So if he is to come to Wolves, it's going to be on a pay cut. He's one of their biggest earners.
I mean,
it's like the Hwang deal. Is that lip service to the fans just to say, "Oh, we're signing Hwang permanently"?
There were other clubs sniffing, weren't there? But again, a lot of it's to do with I believe the whole April end of the tax year, start of a new tax year, and there's a lot of because they're experts at it, aren't they? This
they sound
moving it around.
You, Ryan, with your tax returns.
Hang on, we've thrown Daz on the floor. Just want to make a really good comment from Khalid. What happens if Adama suffers an injury and prevents him from playing this low move? And that's a great question because, I mean, as I said at the start, Khalid, we all want Adama to do well because it pretty much guarantees the transfer will go through. But if something bad was to happen, then where do we stand? Because a handshake isn't a contract, is it? It's not a deal. So
Harry Kane had a golden handshake in the summer, didn't he? And he's still a Tottenham player.
He had a golden boot as well, didn't he? So, but it wasn't all bad. It wasn't all bad for him. But yeah, I mean,
he stays at Wolves, doesn't he? Simple as that. He comes back to Wolves, and then he's still our player. So, and then he can potentially go for nothing. Then, well, he will in a year's time, unless there is something already pre-contract agreement written down. But again, they're savvy. I'd be very surprised, as you said, Ryan, if something wasn't already drafted.
Yeah, I can't.
It may already be. I mean, we don't know. There's clearly a reason why it's been done in the summer and not now. But I just want to know what it is, what that reason is.
Absolutely. So, while we're on Adama departing, then, and this is going to be the fun bit of the show. So, lock delicate people away. This isn't going to be pretty. So, let's go on now. Then, let's talk about the transfer window. We've got 24 hours, 26 hours, something like that, 25, 26 hours left until the window bangs closed. Now, Nocky made a prediction in October that he thinks Wolves will actually leave the transfer window weaker than they began. But what I didn't think they'd be doing is ending the transfer window weaker than they started the season. There's rumours now that Jordan will go out. I think Tim Spears confirmed that he's going to go out on loan. Not that he was going to get in the team, but that's an option of somebody that would have got in if one of our key players gets injured. Adama's gone. Yes, Adama's not starting every week, but he's been a massive impact in games. We're going to lose that impact. So Knocker looks at this moment in time, Knocker's correct. And we've joked about it, but I've got to be honest, I'm not very happy about leaving January. Not weaker than we started it. Now, we mentioned this earlier on, Tyler. Is the fact that we're so close to potentially getting in the top 7 narking you more than it would be if we're 12th, nowhere near Europe? Would you be as bothered as you are now, Tyler?
Yeah, and I don't want to take it too much time, because I think Knocken deserves all the praise on the transfer window, because he nailed it. You know, I said we'd do nothing, but Knocker's correctly called out that we'd be weaker. So if you know what the lottery numbers are for Saturday, Knocker, let me know. But I think it is the fact, like I say, if you're 12th or you're 14th, then a derby goes and we've got nothing to play for, I sort of understand it. But it brings me back to that point. I can't think of another football team in the Premier League in our position that would be doing the same thing. We are pushing for European place and we're weakening our ability to get there, basically, is what it seems to me as a supporter that we're happy to do. And you could have anyone on here, but I just don't understand why that would be the case, to be honest. I think we're that close, and we talk about Europe, there's an outside chance of, top 4, and I don't think Wolves are good enough to get in the top 4, I really don't. But there's an outside chance.
Let me just jump in there a second, Tyler. And I want to bring Daz into this. You say Wolves aren't good enough to get in the top 4. Okay, the top 3 are gone. They're in a league of their own. Okay, are West Ham, Spurs, Arsenal, and Man United that much better than Wolves? From what we've seen this season, the table doesn't lie. Wolves are a few points behind for a reason. Yeah, we've not been great all the way through, but these teams aren't that good. Now I'm on a rant now, and because we're so close, we should be leaving the window stronger, because this opportunity may not come round again. Daz?
No, you're right.
February fixtures after the FA Cup: Arsenal, Spurs, Leicester, West Ham. Final month of the season.
Couldn't be better. Could not be better fixtures.
I mean, look, they'll say Pedro Neto's coming back. I say he probably needs a pre-season.
Yeah.
Hwang Hee-chan, he's going to be fit. Again, started the season well, went off the boil. Who knows why? Johnny, I think, will add something, because I think it's easy to forget just how good he is actually when he's not playing. Willy Bolly, I think he's done now at Wolves, to be honest. Yerson Mosquera might turn out to be a superstar. I haven't seen enough of him. If Jordan's going out, and unless I still wonder, although I thought this when the Morgan Gibbs-White went out on the transfer deadline day in August, I still wonder whether someone else is coming in. Maybe I'm just clutching at straws here, because again, he has become a regular.
Put him out of his misery, Knock. Put him out of his misery.
We need to bring the butcher in to do some chopping here, Daz.
Get the butcher in. We need some hard truths here from Knocker.
Go on, Fred Elliott.
No, I'd absolutely love to be wrong. I'll be over the moon if Wolves bring out a signing from absolutely out of the blue. But I mean, we've been linked with Aaron Ramsey. We're not signing Aaron Ramsey. He's on what, $200,000 a week or something daft at Juventus. He's not coming to Wolves. I think Jordan. Yeah, I had similar thoughts to you, Daz. Does that mean him coming out means someone's coming in? But no, we did it with Gibbs-White. So I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't. I don't see any reason. Yeah, it's not going to happen. We're not going to sign anyone. This is Wolves going forward now. It is what it is, and we've just got to accept it and move on, because we can get as frustrated as we want, but it ain't going to change. So we're okay if Neto comes back and gets quickly back into his stride. We're okay if we avoid injuries, but if we lose one of those 2 key people in midfield, if we lose one of the key people up front, we probably finish 12th, 14th, maybe, in my opinion.
Just want to bring in Joshua on this. He makes a good point. I think he mirrored what I said, really. Strike while the iron's hot when it comes to transfers. We may not be in such a good position this year or even the summer, and not able to attract the players we would right now. I mean, I agree. This is a massive opportunity for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And
I'm with him. I don't mean to jump in, right? I'm with him on that. But, okay, we're saying strike while the iron's hot, the kind of players that we could attract now. So, with the Wolves pattern now, who would we attract? because we don't pay the big money. We're not going to pay those big wages. Our pattern is to bring in players for very small amounts of money, loan them out, develop them, and bring them through. The days of us going out and going and spending 20, 30 million on a player, unless we can sell players to bring in that money in the first place, those days are long, long gone. We're going to be more reliant on young players. So, yeah, we could attract the players now, but if you can name me 5 of those players, I guarantee you that their wage talks will be far above where we are, because I think Coutinho in our midfield would have been fantastic. We were never going to pay Coutinho's wages. There's players there who we could get, but we are not that team anymore. Financially, we can't challenge those sorts of teams, so we're all going to be developing through youth, and that's just the way it's going to be going forward.
Tell you what, I'll just sit down now and be quiet. Sorry, you.
If we showed a bit of ambition here, though, then you could reach for the stars, make the top 4. If you make the top 4, you're in the Champions League. The money you get from that is ridiculous. And of course, then you become attractive to a higher caliber of player, don't you? So it's just that thing about the ambition again, isn't it? Which they need to come on after all the talk of when they came in. And again, I'm not criticising them, because look where we are now. But what they said then, if they still mean it, then they need to come out. And if the goalposts have moved, which is what it appears to be, just tell us.
So without going back over old ground, Daz not good and who's best to answer this, but it had gone style with Nuno. Daz, you've confirmed they sacked him. Why bring a man in and not back the guy? What's the point there? He hasn't had a pound to spend, Ryan.
Let me just bring this comment in. This is great. Ben Golding has said Bruno has surpassed the board's ambitions and expectations. I think he's nailed it. I do not think anybody expected Wolves to be halfway through the season, win their game in hand, and they'd be flirting with 4th. I don't think anyone expected it. No one talked about that. Me and Dad talked pre-season, middle of the table, establish a new style of play. Let's get a cup run. That'll do me very nicely. Keep away from the relegation zone. We did not expect to be where we are now. They didn't plan for where we are now. So does that mean
change your plans then, right? We haven't got Del Boy.
That's not my plan. Whoa.
We're talking like with this Tim Pot, no money football club. We've got Fosun in charge, a multi-billion-pound organisation. And yes, Wolves is one of their businesses and probably quite a small fry, to be honest. But you Knocker keeps telling me how much of a business they are and how good they are. Well, go to Plan B.
But they're an investment company, though, aren't they? They will be comfortable. They will have had a prediction for where they want Wolves to be. If Wolves were 5th from bottom now, then I think we would be signing players. But he's a victim of his own success because he's done so well. He's overachieved. He's getting the best out of the players that were there. So if you're an investment company now who doesn't like throwing money around, you make the initial investment and then you reap the benefits from that investment. Why are they going to go out and spend 30 million for Wolves to possibly finish one place higher? They're not going to do it. This is the way they're going to operate.
But you said the other week, how sustainable is this model?
It's not sustainable. It's not sustainable, but this is where we are with it. Until it goes wrong, they'll stick with it.
Well, let me just jump in at a second there, and I need to add some balance and just to mix things up. You say it's not sustainable, but we've just got a centre back who we'd hardly ever heard of come back and had 2 wins on the bounce. So therefore, that would suggest that part of the model is working. Now that might not work every time, and we might have fallen lucky. But a left-footed centre-back's dropped into the team. If we'd have paid 25, 30 million, you'd be going, what a signing that was. So you have to say there, guys, that partially the model has worked for that, has it not, Daz?
Yeah, and as part of the business model as well, it is to make the academy self-sufficient. And so even if some of these players, probably the majority of them, don't make it in the first team, providing they can sell them on for a profit again, all that is then ploughed back into the academy. Look, it's difficult because it's that close now that with a big push here, this could be an incredible season. But again, we might have a different conversation. Could be 11 o'clock tomorrow night because they might pull a rabbit out the hat. But it's still difficult to question it too much when you look at where we are from where we've come. And I know people don't want to hear that. That's ancient history. But
is that
I think it's still relevant.
Is that our downfall? Is that our downfall?
Possibly. Possibly. But we're having a better season this season than we had last season, aren't we, at the moment? We may have a bad run and finish lower down, but it still looks like they're making progress, doesn't it, at the moment? And I would say they are. So I'm not sticking up for them. I'm as frustrated as you, but I'm just trying to see it from the other side.
I just don't know if we seem to be living in this like, oh, we're Wolves and we're only Wolves and we're doing well to be in the Premier League and be halfway up it. I mean, we don't like the noisy neighbours down the road, Villa, and Knocker, like you said, you could question some of the signings, but you can't question the ambition that they're showing in making those signings. And I think as a football fan, you talk about as a football fan, that's all you want to see, isn't it? You want to see your team being ambitious and having a go.
At the same time, they sold a player for £100 million last summer.
Yeah, but we're selling
but if you go through the money that they've spent, then actually it's pretty much breaking even. There's 30 million on Leon Bailey, on Danny Ings, on Buendia. They spent, I think it's 25 million on Lucas Digne. No, I'm not real because the wages of Coutinho, but it looks like El Ghazi's going to go for 15 to Everton at the end of the season. So actually, in real terms, they haven't actually spent anything. They've just done it brilliantly, what they've done. Although if you look at the league table, you can say, well, who's having the better season?
Yeah. And I love the season we're having, and I think it's great. I've thoroughly enjoying it. It is.
I know, and I'm the same. I'm the same.
I think you've got to look as well. You've got to look at the bigger picture, perhaps. We're coming out the back of a very, very disastrous pandemic, which has really affected football clubs. We've had to replace the quarter section of the South Bank. The Billy Wright's gone up in flames. So there is areas to it. There are reasons behind it. And we said before about the Chinese market and their desire to pull back foreign investment. So there's a lot of reasons to it. But just going back to your point, Ryan, in terms of the academy and the way we're developing players, and we were able to bring in Toti Gomez, who did fantastically well. For me, that model only works as a subsidy to the first team. You've still got to be improving your first team. Otherwise, for every Toti Gomez you'll get, you're going to get 10
others.
Yeah, exactly. They're not all going to hit that level.
I just want to jump into a text I had from a mate of mine called Jazz, and this is a really good point. And it might not happen for a year or two, but the more progression that Grasshoppers make, the first time they're in the Europa League, the better it is for Wolves, because the standard of play they're going to get, and I think then you'll see Wolves get even more players now. I know we're looking further down the line, and that's like stretching out really far into the business model. But as Grasshoppers progress, it can only be good for Wolverhampton Wanderers. So I know we joked about supporting them, but their success is a good thing. Their success is a good thing for Wolves. So we joke about it. But if they won a cup and went into the Europa League or the Conference League, it's only going to be better because Wolves are developing their players. It's a better sister club to have. So I get it.
And come out and tell us then. Come out and explain it.
All I'm trying to do, and I'm just playing devil's advocate because I don't want it to be. I'm really frustrated and I want to strike now. But I have to give credit. I can see what they're doing in those areas, but I totally back what you say, Knocker. That like it's all right doing that, but we need some money to strengthen that team now. This window, if with Adama going, if you gave me a mobile centre midfielder that did something a little bit different to what we do now, that could carry the ball and score a goal, that for me would be a good window. I would take that. But losing Adama and taking Jordan away, who probably fourth or fifth choice, it's not significant. It weakens us.
It does weaken us.
We look more at threat now. I mean, when we're chasing games now, I'm thinking, am I bringing Trincao on or bringing Adama? There isn't no one the same. Look, so that's a worry.
If Pedro Neto comes back in the next fortnight and he's on fire, then you go, okay, we didn't know that he was looking that good. But I would be amazed I think that puts too much pressure on the poor lad. I'm convinced he'll need a pre-season.
He needs to finish the season. Part player. Do you think, Ryan, genuinely now? Do you think now Adama's gone? Do you still think it's a centre midfielder we need, or do we need another wing forward option?
Well, what I would say is about Adama's really come on in the last few weeks, and I think that's why a lot more people are upset about it. But what I would say is all Wolves' best performances this season have been without Adama starting in the team. So Wolves are more of a purist side. Yes, he's made a big impact in the games. Wolves' best performances combined with results have been without Adama. Now, we might not like that, and we got more of a glimpse of what he was doing the last month or so. So would I still want a centre midfielder? I think that's where we need it the most, because if we're chasing a game, we don't really like to change the formation that much. But if you've got someone that's in centre midfield that can travel, I mean, I doesn't do it as much now, but like probably want someone a bit like a Decore kind of player that will get in the box and add goals from midfield. That kind of midfielder that will add 5-10 goals a season. That option for when we're chasing a game, or
getting beyond the striker as well.
Absolutely, we don't have that, and they're never going to do that. And as good as they are, you can't really change the setup too much without changing the formation, which we never do. Maybe 5-3-2, 3-4-3, it pretty much stays like that. But we don't have the ability to change to a back four to play with that kind of team. It just that's the frustration. So I know I've gone on a bit there, Chris, but yes, I still think a centre midfielder is. Yeah, I mean, like I said, Sanchez is going to AC Milan. The ship sailed a long time ago for that. But a player of that style, I know he's very, very good. He's everything that Wolves don't have. Gets forward. I mean, and he's absolutely everywhere. Brilliant footballer, and whoever gets him is going to be lucky because at the Euros he was absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, what do you guys think? Are you all in agreement that you'd have a centre mid if you could?
100%.
Yeah, I think that's what we're lacking. I think we haven't really got the option, have we? Dendoncker will come in and he will do a job for you, but he's not gonna. You don't win a football match as a result of Dendoncker. With all due respect, we need someone who can change a game for us coming into those midfield positions. And it's like we said before: if Neves comes out next week and breaks his leg, it's curtains for the season, isn't it? Because we've got no one to come in. But it's frustrating, but it's where we are.
I think it's. I wasn't with you, but I think now with the Adama going, I think that leaves a huge gap in that forward area. I genuinely do. And you look at the bench now without Neto being fit, and there's no game changer on there. There is. Every Wolves fan on 60 minutes was looking at the watch thinking, "Oh, is Adama warming up? Let's get Adama on." But that's gone. That has gone. And I'm sorry. I'm saying, "Oh, let's get the new centre mid on." Just doesn't excite me, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it's not a number, but someone that could add a bit more zest to the play, someone that could pick the ball up and carry it.
I mean,
as opposed to
Hwang, Ryan.
Like Adama.
Maybe we saw glimpses of Hwang early on. I don't know whether I was the only one comparing Hwang a little bit to Jota. And
I'm not sure about Hwang, Daz. I'm not
having him.
But we saw it in the first few weeks of the season, didn't we? So if he comes back and he performs like that, he could answer it. But he did go off the boil, and I think he probably got worked out a little bit by some of the opposition teams as well.
And I don't mean it's disrespectful on Hwang, but Wolves kicked on their run as soon as Hwang got injured. Now I'm not saying that's it's probably reading too much into that, but as soon as we got to use Adama more from the impact sub moments, and he was involved more. I mean, I know Podence has really come a lot in those months as well, but I need a lot more from Hwang. He's strong, he tries hard, he's mobile. But for a player that played a third of the season wide,
so is Knocker.
He's cheap.
That is cheap.
He's affordable, and that's the reality of it. We can afford to buy him, so we're going to buy him. That's the reality, isn't it? We're not going to, if they said we want 25 million for him, Wolves ain't going to pay that. But with the price of him, we're going to sign him because
but if he weighs in with another 4 or 5 goals, is it 4 or 5 he's got?
It's a good signing.
So jury out for me, but he might come back and show the sort of form he was showing, because you don't know whether this injury that it turned out to be a hamstring, how long he'd been managing that for. Because I tried to get him to run it off of Brighton. I've never seen a medical team trying to send a bloke with a hamstring to run it off.
Yeah, can you run that off, mate?
Yeah, so you don't know how long he'd been. So I don't know. And again, I'm with you at the moment. But who's to say he won't recapture that early season form?
And let's be honest, he's been here 5 minutes. Like you said, Neto took a season or so. Most players that come in the Premier League take time to adapt.
Yeah, which is why I said ask me at the end of the season about Trincao, because I
know we talked about him earlier on, but and I know that the boss likes him a lot, but Trincao for me, he's one of the most natural footballers at the club. The way he takes a ball down, the way he twists and turns, he glides, it looks effortless. It almost looks nonchalant how skillful he is. But his decision making and his strength are two things that massively need working on, which is very similar to what you said about Neto. You didn't think Neto was going to be a player. He had a couple of months, don't know what he was training, but he come back an absolute monster and turned into a fantastic footballer. Maybe that'll come for him as well. But with Hwang,
Silva's bulked up as well, hasn't he?
Well, Silva's kicked on. With Hwang, you know what? I'm happy to eat my words. I feel like it might be a deal that pays for itself in terms of the commercial side of things. I'm not seeing a 26-year-old for 12 or 14 million pounds. I look at our best team and he gets nowhere near it. I want to be wrong. I'll be delighted to eat my words. And I hope I am wrong, because if he's wrong, it's better for Wolves. But I'm not convinced on that one. Guys, we've got 5 minutes left, so I knew that bit of the show would fly by. So Hope everyone's enjoyed our debate on that.
I had a full head of hair when we started tonight.
I'm not good.
I think with Trincao, I think we're playing him in the wrong place. I think he could be that midfielder you're talking about because I think he's got.
Yeah.
I think if you play him in a midfield 3, tucks him behind, maybe just slightly north of Neves. For me, I think he can make an impact there.
North of Neves, what a position that is, Knocker.
I don't think he's got that
north
natural.
Of Neves.
What a great name for a band.
North of Neves. But I think I don't think it suits him where we're playing him. I think if we drop him into a midfield role, that could work for us going forward.
He drops deep looking for the ball.
Yeah, I think he looks more comfortable in the middle of the pitch than he does wide, but mainly because although he's got the skill, he doesn't really. When he's beat a man, the man's caught up with him again in 2 strides, hasn't he? So he's roasted the fullback.
He's slower than me and Knocker put together, isn't he? That's how
he's slow. So I've got 4 minutes left, guys. I want to talk about the cup game. We've got Norwich at home. Me personally, I want nothing but the strongest team. I think he'll probably put Ruddy in. I don't think it's a time to mess around. We wouldn't have had a game for 2 weeks. This is a big opportunity for Wolves to progress into the 5th round. Tyler, tell me quickly what we're going to do for Norwich.
Yeah, I totally agree. As you know, I'm not the biggest cup advocate, to be honest, but they've had a couple of weeks off. There's no reason to bring Sace in, is there? I think he can have a bit longer off to recover. I think they lost today, so he'll be coming back soon. But I wouldn't involve him on Saturday. I'd give Totti another game, get him up to speed still. I'm with you, Ryan. Yeah, I want to see the best 11. Raul, if he's fit, plays for me, I think. I think Fabio's still a bit of an impact player. I think he starts if he's fit. But yeah, I want the strongest team and I want to get to the next round.
Absolutely. Knocker?
Yeah, similar. I don't think we've got a lot of choice but to play a strong team because we ain't got many left, have we? So I would start Silva, if I'm being honest, because I think that the lad's really starting to show some things.
Well, him and Podence together look good, don't they? So
yeah, I think Ruddy will certainly start. But yeah, I want to try and win it. I mean, if we do drop down the leagues a bit, but we end up in a cup final, we'll take that.
We'll take that. Oh,
there's Europe at the end of that.
I'll take that.
Yeah,
absolutely, take that. Daz,
Ruddy against his old club, of course, and Norwich, because they've now come out of the relegation zone. I'm hoping that Dean Smith actually puts a few of the shadow players in as well, just give us even more chance.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's a big opportunity, and I'd be really disappointed if we don't take it seriously. I'd also be surprised as what Knocker said. We don't really have that many options. I saw one of the comments. I mean, I've taken the comments off now that Raul's played for Mexico, so we know he doesn't particularly like playing in match. He's played for Mexico, so that may mean Silva start. I know there's a keeper's agreement, but how long do we keep playing Ruddy in the cup? I think we can play him in this one, but I mean, I want to be playing the strongest team, and that's not being over disrespectful to Ruddy. Let's go on to the predictions and first scorer for the game. We'll start with you, Daz.
2-0 Podence.
Get in there. Knocker.
I'm going to go 4-1, and I'm going to go Silva with the opener. I found
I'm so bad, sir. We ain't going to let 4 in.
I'm so glad I started with you two because I know what's going to happen next. Right, then let's take you on to the money transfer hungry spending spree at Newcastle, but our own version of Eddie Howe. Tyler, what you got for us?
No, I'm with you boys. I think Daz is right. I think this won't be a priority for Norwich, and I think we'll win it. 2-0. Be nice to get a goal for Fabio, wouldn't it? So let's say Fabio.
Yeah, I mean,
I think he deserves a goal, doesn't he? I think he's working hard, and be nice to see him score.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to be boring and go with you guys. I think Wolves will win. I agree with Daz. I think it'll be a weakened Norwich team. I think their eyes will be elsewhere. I don't mind who scores, but let's go with Fabio as well. Let's go 2-0 Wolves and Fabio and get our cup run going and keep our season flying. Hopefully in 24 hours' time, we'll be delighted because Jeff's pulled an incredible centre midfielder out to help us. Unfortunately,
you'll have taken this down, won't you?
Unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. This has been the Wolves Report, episode 19. Thank you to Daz Hale. What we got here? What's he saying? Ryan, can I have your shirt? Of course you can, Daz. No problem at all.
Hi, Mark Daz. $1.99.
I've been Ryan Lester. Thank you to Daz Hale. Thank you to Chris Styler. Thank you to Mark Knock. This has been episode 19 of the Wolves Report. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Up the Wolves.